Hey, fam. Welcome to the tripod. We are identical triplets and your co hosts, Heather, Hope, and Heidi. Last week, we heard Hope's version of our family story. And today, guess what? You're going to hear Heidi's version as we sit down for her one on one.
All right, Hyde, you are our guest of honor today. So
Oh
you ready
boy.
to kick us off?
I am as ready as I'm ever going to be, I think, guys.
Well, awesome. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your story? What number kid were you? Give us a little bit of your that little mini bio.
Yeah, I'll try to be as succinct with it as you guys were. I thought you did a good job. Well, quick background, right? As we've mentioned in the interviews that we did with you guys, the three of us are the youngest in a family of 10, but I was the youngest, literally. Apparently I came out number 10 after you guys. And so, I grew up, did all the things that you both said you did, went to college, went to the Peace Corps for a time. After that, met my husband there. I always joke and say I had to go to South America to meet my husband. Haha.
Where
Tigre
exactly
Hyde.
were you, Hyde? Where were you in South America?
Um, I was in Bolivia, the country of Bolivia. And yeah, my husband and I were just in different parts of the country during the time that we were there. But yeah, so that's kind of a cool, unique little part of the story.
It's
I love
amazing.
that. Yeah.
I did that you guys didn't do. And I know, Hope, you went to Japan. I can't remember if you mentioned that in your mini story, but
She did not.
Wow. I guess I didn't.
well, for
Shame
our
on me.
listeners, after college, Hope
How
went to
could I
Japan
forget
for a
my
year.
experience, right?
I'm telling you what, right? You need people like your
Thanks for the
sisters.
reminder, guys.
Yeah, you need your triplet sisters to help you remember your
Your
important parts of the
past.
story, Hope. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, so went
Domo
to the Peace
arigato gozaimasu.
Corps. De nada, de nada.
Oh, see.
So
And hello.
yeah, so back to the bio. So yeah, got married, then moved away from, you know what I'm gonna say, you guys, the seaside hamlet. That
Good
just
old.
Hope and the description of the place that we all
Yep.
call home.
Yep. I'm
So
glad
there
it's
you
ingrained.
Trailhead.
I'm glad it's ingrained in both of your minds now,
go.
Hmm.
Okay.
and probably the minds of all of our listeners, given the number
Absolutely.
of times we've said it. So
Okay. Well, good. We're trying
yeah,
to be memorable. So
That's right.
if you
exactly.
can remember one thing about
If
the
they if
podcast,
they don't remember us, they'll
it's
remember Marblehead.
it's the seaside hamlet we grew up in. So that's good. Yeah. So anyway, sad to say, I left that seaside hamlet, and yeah, eventually like worked in nonprofit sector for a while before we had kids. I had two kids, both wonderful human beings that loved to pieces. But I think unlike the two of you guys, the both of you had worked outside of the home and fell into careers like in the financial services industry. It took me some time to figure out what the career was that was going to be the one that I thought was a good fit for me.
Hmm.
And, the thing that I'd eventually find my way to, which I did. So, yeah, as I got older, went to grad school. This is just a shout out to people listening to this podcast. I was 40 when I went back to grad school. So,
Whoop whoop.
It's never
what do
too late.
we say, right?
It's
It's the
never too late.
tripod. And although this is triplets talking, it's never too late to try. Just
That's
wanted
right.
to throw that in there.
We always want people to try.
Right. Yeah. To do something they feel maybe they've been called to or have interest in or passion. So whatever.
What a great
Um,
message, though, Heidi. Thank you for saying that.
That's right.
yeah. I would say de nada again in Spanish, but you're welcome. Yeah. So anyway, went to grad school, and so I've been graduated and then been practicing as a clinical social worker for about 15 years now, which is like so hard to believe. But otherwise, yeah, I am married to my best friend Todd. We've been married for 33 years, which again is so hard to believe. Have two adult kids. One is in New England. The other one is in the Southeast, and she's been married for about almost 3 years now.
So you have a
Outside,
son-in-law.
yes, I do. I have a son-in-law. Yeah, that's right. You mentioned your kids. They're their partners. Yeah, she mentioned son-in-laws, so that's important for me to mention right here, right now. Thanks for the reminder, Hope.
Thumbs up, Hyde. Thumbs
Yeah.
up.
Thumbs up. So, yeah, outside of that, I think another important thing to know about me is that I'm a Christian, um, which, just makes me a better version of myself or who I would be without God.
Mm.
Love growing in that nearness to Him. And yeah, outside of that, some other things about me that I like to share is I like to do things like walking and running and biking and yoga and any outdoor activity that I can do. I like to do so.
You like to
That's
stay active.
Yes, and I know the 2 of you guys do too, but, yeah, that's an important part of, I think, who I am when you ask me, like, "Tell me about yourself, Heidi." So, hopefully that was helpful to you guys and to our listeners.
It was awesome, Hyde. Thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome, Hyde, and I think the part about being a Christian, I think, is so important, um, especially as we talk this season with our family, right? Because we were all brought up in a very traditional Catholic family,
Mhm.
right? Um, and it will be interesting just to hear from our family as to whether or not sort of religion has shaped any bit of their identity.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. That's a good point, Head. I appreciate you
Yeah.
saying that.
And as we shift tide now to talking about our family and you being number 10 in a family of 10, so true baby in the family and baby of the three, of our unit,
Yeah.
what role do you think you played in the family of 10?
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys have answered that question, and I guess, it's my turn now, so, um, 2 things I think I'd say about role. The first one is, just sort of how I experienced myself in the family in terms of like, you know, what I got acknowledged for, which was being funny. Um, so I do think that I provided a kind of, I don't know, good humor, maybe lightheartedness that I brought into the family system. I mean, I don't know.
And still do.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. And I don't know. I mean, maybe that was my way of trying to take up some space in the family just because of how many of us there were. But
Or to
I
be
do think
seen,
it's,
Hyde, is that what you're saying?
yeah, I don't know. But I mean, I also think it just kind of like came naturally to me, like just my personality. And so that was just kind of, I mean, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that about myself.
Well, Heidi, I think, it's something that Heather and I so enjoy about you. You have such a great sense of humor, and I think Heather would absolutely agree with me, as would the whole family. You are most definitely not only the funniest out of all three of us, but you're definitely the funny the funniest in the family.
Well, we'll see what Steph has to say about that. She's pretty funny herself. She's
Yes,
good. She's
Steph's
a,
funny.
she's a great storyteller.
Yes, she is an
Yes.
excellent storyteller. Maybe she can
Yes.
tell one of her stories when we interview her.
That well, hopefully, that'll be good and maybe bring a little humor to people who might be listening to it, so that's exciting.
But
Yes,
Hyde,
something to
Yeah.
look forward to.
I would
Mhm.
just also say too that being funny and you're also a great listener, and I think you keep things very lighthearted. When we're having family conversations. When we're all together. So, really appreciate that too.
Oh, well, thank you guys. This is like, pump up my ego before I say the
Yeah.
second part of this answer to the question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here we
Um,
go.
yeah, so I would experience myself as funny. I think I brought a lot of humor to the family system. The second thing I probably would say is, and this was something I think that was put more on me,
Yeah.
um, being the youngest, which is kind of funny, right? Because the 3 of us technically are the youngest. Like, Heather, you're 8 minutes older than me, and Hope, you're 4 minutes older than me. So, I mean, there's that, okay?
Yeah.
So you got me by a couple minutes, but generally, we're all the youngest, but because I was, like, the last one, I think people just treated me like I was the youngest.
A baby.
Yeah,
Took
like
care
that
of you.
there was this idea, I guess, that sort of got communicated, at least to me. I mean, the way that I received it was that
Mhm.
I needed help with things. And I think that created a kind of dependency in me that I've definitely worked hard to try to overcome in my adult life, like people doing things for me that I should be doing for myself. Yeah, and it's something that I'm still trying, to work to overcome. And probably it shows up mostly like in my relationship with Todd more than anything, right? Like, um, he's really good at a lot of things, especially like finances and stuff. So like sometimes when, I could take more responsibility, maybe like doing the adult things like paying bills, like he's got it. And I know that there's division of responsibility in family systems, but I
Absolutely.
just know that like there are things about the way that I grew up in our house that definitely impact and affect, you know, whether I'm going to do that or not in my relationship with him. So anyway, that's sort of what I would say.
That's great, Hyde. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and Hope, before
yeah,
you
go
continue,
ahead,
I just wanna say that so, kinda just to summarize there, Hyde, in terms of, the funny part of it, that's something you feel that you put on yourself, and then being treated, as if you were the youngest in the family, that's really something the family, somewhat ascribed to you.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you for that summary, Heather.
You're
That
welcome.
was very well said.
I like summaries and conclusions, that's all.
And you're you're
That's
you're
good to
you're very good
know.
at that.
That's
You're a
good
good
to know.
listener too.
We learned something,
Buy
Heather,
the book,
today.
buy the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Hyde, so
Yeah.
why don't you talk a little bit about what it was like to grow up in a big family?
Yeah. And some of what I'm gonna say, it will sound familiar, right? Because you guys have already done your interviews, but you know, in that I think you both have done a good job explaining what it was like for you. And I think you both said positive things and some negative things, or some things that were good and some things that were challenging, if you want to word it that way or phrase it that way. But for me, I loved that there were people always around us. So I never felt alone or lonely, which is an overlap, right? It's what you guys have both said.
Yep.
So, and I think you made mention of like Sunday dinners, holidays that really were just such fond times to remember. Like when I was thinking about what it was like, I just have such good memories of those times. Um, and I think I also really loved that we had older siblings who not only like we thought were cool, but I think like the like they thought we were cool too, right? Or
Well,
maybe because we thought they were cool, we maybe by association thought we were cool. I don't know if you guys have
or
anything
or
to say
or
about that.
I've thought
Part of the
about the
gang.
same thing. Yeah, like, but I think it's true. Just the concept of having identical triplet sisters
Yeah.
in a way is sort of cool. And so, maybe that's what you were feeling from them.
Yeah, but I also like, I always think about them being excited to like let us hang out with them, right? Like I'm
Yeah,
sure you guys remember this, but Stephanie and her friends, they were what, like in high school when we were younger?
absolutely. Yeah,
And they would always hang out at a specific spot at like one of the public beaches in town. It was
Devereaux
called Devereaux
Beach, yeah,
Beach.
on the
Yeah,
wall.
right. The third lamppost. Remember that?
Yeah, the third
third
lamppost,
lamppost, it's
exactly.
still there.
And so I just remember, her friends were always just like so kind and nice to us. And like I think about times when like Mark and Vincent and Keith were like working on car maintenance and like changing oil, or like they were into motorcycles for a time, and like they would, take us on motorcycle rides. And like I never got the impression that we were like inconvenient or like
Right, a
burdensome
burden,
for
yeah.
them to like hang out with. So
Mhm,
I think I just like loved getting the opportunity to connect to them that way. And kind of goes back to feeling like part of a family, right? Like there was a strength in that connection. And like kind of knowing that we had like support from our older siblings. And I think some other things would be like values learned in the home that were obviously family oriented. So we kind of learned the value of family. And I think you guys have mentioned this. It's just kind of something that I think we all absorbed
mhm.
and helped. And like the absorption of it has helped, like I know me, but I think you guys too, value the building of our own families when we've been married and, like, decided to start having, kids to
Mhm.
just build that family of our own. So, I mean, opportunity to learn about things from our older siblings, like, they exposed us to, "Here's some more memories for you, Supertramp,
Oh my gosh, I was just gonna say
ACD
that, Heidi.
AC/DC,
AC/DC, Hell's Bells. Every time I hear
AC/DC,
Hell's Bells.
Earth, Wind and
AC/DC,
Fire." Yeah, Earth,
The
Wind and
Who.
Steph was
the
into that.
Doobie Brothers.
Do you guys
Yeah.
remember Boz Scaggs?
Yeah,
How can we
Boss
forget?
Gags, all those albums, right? The
Yeah,
vinyls.
and
And what
Meatloaf.
about I
Meat
don't mean to interrupt. What do you like when you guys think of Vincent and music, who do you think about?
I think Meatloaf or Boz Scaggs.
Or Bob Seger?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was good. I don't know if I
Wasn't that
remembered
like,
that, Heather.
"Danger
Thank you.
lives a breakdown dead ahead"? No, maybe that was Meatloaf, I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, just like, that we had the opportunity to be influenced by that stuff,
Yeah,
right? Which I'm not so sure, of course, our peers would be listening to those kinds of things,
right,
so
Definitely
exactly.
not. Yeah.
but yeah, so I guess just like, the funny stories that they share and tell, and I think obviously, like, another positive about the family that we grew up in was that there was a real value placed on education and hard work, which is something I know you guys have mentioned, but I think I admired all of our older siblings, like, their desire for higher education, and just kind of a great work ethic, which, of course, we know was modeled in what probably they saw with mom and dad, because we've mentioned mom was probably, like, the hardest working person that I've ever known. And I think you
Absolutely.
guys have said that too. And so the last thing I think I'll say about, like, some of the good things about the family were that, Heather, you just mentioned that we grew up going to church. And so I will just be forever thankful to mom and dad for their faith and for taking me to church, for taking us to church. I'm not sure I was really excited about that when I was a teen because I think you both remember, we'd be like, "Yeah, mom, we went to church." And we, like, would have spent the morning at Allie's house or something, but
Or we'd open up the door, we would go
Grab a
and
pamphlet.
grab a pamphlet, dip our finger in the holy water,
yeah, right.
see the church for a few minutes, and then exit.
Go for a
Yeah.
drive.
Go for
And
a
then
Just
drive.
cruise
back
the
and
neck.
Sunday drives.
to come back and tell mom church was great,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, those were ages and stages. But anyway, I just, I'm just grateful for the foundation that they laid for
Mhm.
me and, the faith that obviously, like, I've developed in my adult life, over time. So that's been some good stuff. I think some hard stuff would just be, there were two parents with 10 kids. So, like, it's already been made mention of, like, they were outnumbered 5-1.
Time and attention.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly right. Like, so didn't really get the opportunity to connect to them the way that I think all of us would have liked to. And I think becoming a parent has helped me to see what I may have missed out on or wasn't able to get from our parents
Mhm.
solely just because they were outnumbered, right?
Yeah.
And I guess while family was always around and, you learn the value of family in a big system like that, I think it's odd to me that as adults, the connectivity between our siblings isn't super strong. And so, what do I mean by that? Very rarely do I get a phone call from anyone outside of our family, like, outside of you guys, right? Like, so if I want to talk to any of them, I have to call them. Like, there just it doesn't feel like there's a real reciprocal reaching out or investing in the maintenance of the family relationships. And I
Out of
think,
sight, out of mind.
yeah, out of sight, out of
Or
mind, right? And
out
I
of
think,
state, out of mind.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's true, right? I think, like, and guys, we talked, right? Like, maybe it's just that our parents died early, and there's, like, no single unifying presence,
Right.
right? Like, it changes when that's not there, but I
Yeah, it
think
really
that we
does.
just all learned because of how big the system was to take care of ourselves, and I think the results of that long term is a sort of disconnected, um, experience in the family. And, like, Heather, I hope you just mentioned out of state, right? Like, when you don't live in the seaside hamlet we grew up in,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
you really do have to make the effort to see people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I'm not so sure I'd, like, ever see them at all. And so that's kind of, that's unfortunate dynamic that I notice and experience. And I guess because I live in Florida, you know, um, yeah. I don't see people. I have to come to Marblehead or come north to see a lot of people. So that's just kind of a bummer.
When you just said, I don't see people, I don't know why, but I was just reminded of The Sixth Sense when he said, but I see dead people.
Right.
I don't see people, but I see dead people.
Yeah.
Um, that's a
Well,
really good point though, Heidi. I think, I think it is an unfortunate outcome of maybe losing mom and dad when we did, and having
Mm.
that sort of that disconnectedness around not having that central piece,
Pull.
that central pull to have everybody come back to,
yeah,
right? Like if we think about what you said earlier about some of your fond memories, these holidays and these Sunday dinners, those were pulls, right? Everybody
yeah,
came together
yeah,
to
for
be
sure.
together, to experience that together, and we all have super fond memories of that.
Hmm.
Um, but as time has moved on, in the absence of parents, and also as each of us has gotten accustomed to doing our own thing with our own families, raising our kids and everything else, yeah, I think the thing that has fallen short and fallen down is, staying better connected.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah, for sure.
incredible. And hope
Is there anything else, Hyde, that you would say, were challenges?
I don't think so. I mean, and I've shared sort of what I thought, and I know some of it. I keep using the word overlap, but have has been mentioned by the two of you guys. So I can't really think of anything. I mean, overall, I would say, it was like awesome to grow up in such a big family. But there was just a few things, that were kind of more challenging or harder.
so much.
Else?
Yeah. So I was going to say, so Hyde, thank you so much for sharing. And that was a great segue because the next question that we were going to ask you is about losing our parents,
Mhm.
at an early age and sort of what that meant for you,
Yeah.
and how that loss really impacted you.
Yeah. That's, always an interesting question. And, I mean, I guess when we were young, you don't really know what you don't know. So what I mean by that is when you lose people that you care about and love, there's this experience of you like sort of just standing still in time.
Mm.
And I think, I'm thinking about dad when he died, this idea that like we all gathered together with our family members and people that knew him, right? To like either celebrate their life, like in a celebration of life kind of experience, or a funeral, or whatever event you want to call that particular gathering. Um, and so, I think for us, or for me, I'm speaking for myself, after that happened, you know, I think I just got busy moving on, as did I think you guys, as you've described it in your interviews, as I'm imagining our other siblings will as well. Um, but it's like this huge big thing happens and then it's over and that's it. There were like no check ins to ask about the emotional reality of what happened, and for us, I think it was like, what other real options do we have? Um, and, that was just what we saw modeled, I guess, or I saw
Or
modeled in our
or
adults.
Heidi, I don't mean to interrupt
Yeah,
you.
no.
I just wanted to say, or it was an attempt by the older people in our family to not ask those questions, thinking that maybe it would make us even sadder. Like I always felt that the attention was put on us to keep us happy and feeling good,
Mhm.
and not kind of having to delve into some of the feelings associated with losing someone. Like, and so like, I guess what I'm saying is, I wonder if the lack of check-ins was in an attempt to not circle us back to something bad happening, making us
Yeah. The
feel
initial trauma.
the initial trauma of it. I
I
don't know,
mean,
maybe not, but it's a
it
really interesting insight.
it could have been, but as I think about the experience of being a part of that family system, I just don't think that there was any real like focus on feelings, like,
At all.
how are you doing? How are you feeling? I just think that like there was just a lack of kind of emotional um
Connect that
of
way.
connectedness or like availability.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of like we don't really talk about these things, and we definitely don't talk about how we feel about these things. Is sort of, what I kind of have come away with experientially, but you guys might feel differently, I don't know. But,
I don't feel differently. And I do think it's really interesting. Again, when dad died, we were 13. I'm not sure that our family was emotionally capable of kind of helping us through that, right? Because I think in the family of 10, it was always like, you know, take care of yourself, get through it. And I think everybody kind of just got busy moving on. It's
and
like,
yeah,
got through
okay,
it.
it's like dad died. Everybody sort of reassess, okay, what does that mean? And then move forward. And there was never that like emotional check in to your point, Hyde, about saying, how are you guys doing? How are you feeling? Because, again, I know you're a therapist, but they say that, young kids really can't process trauma until they get older. Um, or grief, I should say. They can't really process grief until they get older. And whether or not that's true, I don't know. But yeah, there was really no emotional check in.
yeah. And, I mean, it's like who was checking in with them? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like if you think about pattern, like what people are learning.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, I think what I'm getting at is that because of the loss at young ages, right? Like, I don't think I realized how much residual grief I was carrying for years from their deaths until, my oldest child went to college. And then eventually my daughter did. She did a gap year in different countries and then went to college. I think and I've shared this in the other, in our, original podcast, Finding Our Way Through, um, is that grief really totally sucker punched me. And of course, I was sad about the kids leaving, but also happy for them at the same time, right? Holding space for both those things to be true. But I think my grief felt disproportionate to the situation because I mean, I knew the kids really weren't that far away and I could see them or access them, like
Mhm.
going to visit them at college or like they're going to be home for holidays and summer breaks and stuff. But I think when life changed, because we were no longer doing things that were like centered around them, I think the quiet inside me and outside me alerted me to something more primitive inside
Mhm.
me. And yeah, I think it surprised me to learn that I'd been carrying that for a long time. So, um, I don't wanna sound, like, self-pitying at all, but I think to lose parents so young, really, for us, has been tragic. Of course, like I mentioned, we get busy living lives, which we have, but it's the absence of our parents, of mom and dad not being there right now. For dad, if you think about it, you guys, 44 years.
Yeah.
It's
We were
crazy.
13, right? So and Hope, you alluded to this a little bit earlier, like, so he died, and so for 44 years, we've not had any experience of him, like, as a friend, as a grandfather, as an advice giver, um
Mentor.
yeah, and that lack, you feel that inside of you, and, of course, mom, right, 35 years of her not being here, so, like, that's so sad that, like, we have no other experience of mom after 22.
Yeah. I know.
I
So
know.
I think about, you know, the mother-daughter relationship and connection. I mean, we're fortunate enough, each of us, to have a daughter. I mean, and also sons, but, um, it's like that lack of, like, mom's support or encouragement or,
Mhm.
not passing down her mastery of, like, sewing skills or
Right.
knitting abilities, right?
Or
Right.
knitting, yeah.
Just what, like, I haven't been able to receive from her, and I'm including, you in what I'm saying because, you had the same thing, right? She was
Yeah.
Experience,
our
yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
But I think sitting with, like, the reality of being, this might sound dramatic, but, like, an orphan in the world, like, without parents, I think it's been profoundly hard, and collectively, I don't think, outside of the three of us talking about it, I don't think we've ever really acknowledged it as a family group. Like, it's almost kind of sometimes I feel like we all have these, sorrows inside, but we're sometimes like wounded animals licking wounds kind of silently off in the corner. Really? Because like no one ever really talks about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's so incredibly insightful, Heidi, and you sharing, you know, your grief for mom and dad when your kids went away to college. I know for me, grief over losing dad, really came upon me when mom was sick with cancer and dying.
Mhm.
That grief was so heavy for me. I was in college, and I remember seeing a therapist at the time because I couldn't stop crying whenever I thought about mom, and I realized a lot of it was tied to losing dad at an early age. So I know this interview is about you, Hyde, but just wondering if Hope has a recollection of when that grief really hit her.
Yeah, I'd love to
Um,
hear it, Abby.
I I do. I think it was when I was a freshman in college, and it was family weekend.
Mhm.
And I
Mm.
think Heidi, you'll remember this just because we were in school together. Mom came to visit us. We had lunch with her and our brother Mark. But I think for the first time, I looked around and I was seeing moms and dads, and dad wasn't there. And I think it was the first time that it really hit me
Mhm.
that it, like, even though he had passed, 6 years before that, it was the first time that it hit me that it was permanent, as strange as that might sound. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think that when he died, I thought I was gonna see him again, but I don't know that I felt the permanence of it, and
Yeah.
for some reason, I'll never forget just looking around and seeing mothers and fathers with their kids, and I was like, "Wow, I
Mhm.
am never gonna see him again."
Mm.
And so I think that was the moment it really hit me
Mhm.
that he was gone. And of course, I mean, you'll both remember, no one really checked in with us, but I do remember, after dad died, mom would be upstairs in her bedroom, and, at night, she'd be alone by herself. And I remember checking in with her and saying, "Are you okay? How are you doing?" And do you guys remember, like, her rote response was always, "I just really miss him."
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and so we sort of lived with mom, for 9 years after dad died, and I think she was really heartbroken and very sad for those 9 years, and I think she tried very diligently to be happy and upbeat and continue to
Mhm.
take care of us. But I think
Carry
we
on.
carry on, like, buck up, get through it. But I think for whatever reason, um, I just think she was, when he died, a part of her died too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that
And you
that's
guys no
absolutely true.
longer here.
And Heather, I hate that I didn't know that you had seen a therapist in college.
And
That was
Heather,
so
the
sad.
same thing just happened. You lost your video and your audio, so you need to jump out and come back in again. Yeah, I didn't know had seen a therapist in college about that either.
Yeah, it kinda just goes back to my, and maybe, I was gonna say it goes back to my, like, our family doesn't really create space to talk about the struggles that might be, surfacing. Um,
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. I wonder sometimes, why that is. Like, was it the way that we were all brought up, like the Catholic upbringing, like, you know,
Mm.
or like the Irish in us, like, you don't really talk about your feelings. I mean, I feel like we grew up in a household where talking about your feelings wasn't really encouraged.
yeah, well, it's generational, right? I mean, like,
It's a weakness.
he's talking to our parents about their feelings, and then it's cultural. I mean, we grew up in a time in a, like, an era where, like, children are meant to be seen and not hurt.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
all of, and just, like, approaches to parenting and stuff like that. I mean, things have changed over time. pretty evident based on research how important attachment is, and in particular, the emotional needs of kids and like how emotionally available parents are to their children. And so, of course, it has a direct impact and effect. So, yeah, I mean, I just think a lot of, what we note as our experience in terms of like emotional health in family system, it was just something that, yeah, nobody, that conversation was never broached.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, Hyde.
And so well said.
So well said. So, Heidi, you've talked a lot about some of the things that you learned, some of the things that you admired in some of our older siblings.
Mhm.
But can you talk a little bit about, those lessons that you talked about? If there are more, we'd love to hear about them.
Yeah.
And how, you've carried those forward in your life.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, like lessons I've learned as a result of being
Being
a
a part
part
of a
of
big
such a big
family.
family. Yeah. It's like, what has it taught me? I think, the first thing honestly is like relationship is everything.
Mm.
Um, Connection to people, I think, is the greatest blessing for a human being. So I was fortunate enough, you guys were fortunate enough to have those relationships like built in to the structure, the fabric of our experience,
The
right?
dynamic of the three of us, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the dynamic of the 3 of us, but also in the midst of a larger
It's a huge
system, right?
family.
Like, we always were connected. But I think, yeah, just like that need to be in relationship and community is really key to feeling like life is honestly worth living for people.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lesson that I've taken away, learned from just the gratitude I feel about having been a part of a big family. I think family values is another thing, right? Getting the opportunity to give my kids um, the experience of like family is so important. And this is, hopefully what healthy family looks like. And, know you're loved and, cared for, and just so thankful for you. So I think just giving my kids maybe some of wasn't what I wasn't able to receive, right?
Yeah.
Just because of what we just talked about, like just generational differences and approaches to parenting and how available or not parents were to their kids. So that's been good. And hoping that they're more confident and secure relationally as people and as like young adults moving into the world, I think, is something that has been a takeaway for me. And I think, yeah, really important to learn how to like equally give and equally receive in relationships, which means, and this is sort of like how I've tried to put this into practice is, like we've talked about, we all kind of realized that there are, parents are outnumbered 5 to 1. So, you know, figure out how to do things on your own. And so that can sometimes mean it's hard to ask for help.
Heather, can you
Because
relate to that?
yeah, I mean, I know you both talked about it, but I've had to learn to ask for help. Um, and I know you both have mentioned it's hard to do. But I think the same would be true. I mean, it'd be interesting to hear what the siblings have to say about maybe what their long-term takeaways from growing up in the family system have been too. I think they're probably going to say the same thing. I'm imagining anyway. So looking forward to hearing what they have to say. But yeah, I think the last thing is just because there were so many of us, even though we were together, there was that, experience, I think, of like we just said, learning to take care of yourself. And that includes the emotional part of it. And so we all got really good at being independent. We all got really good at being self reliant. Um, and like I just said, it's not bad, but it also came with its challenges. And I've already talked about kind of like the long-term impact and effect that can have on like family in terms of, you know, like who's investing in relationships over the long haul, people equally like making phone calls? Are they equally texting? Are they equally saying, hey, let's try to figure out how to get together this summer because we haven't seen each other in a while? Like the only time that ever really happens with our family system is in Marblehead for the most part when we're all
Yeah.
together.
Right.
Or except like at weddings, when people actually, most of the people in our family made the effort to come to Florida to Helen's wedding. So that was good.
Yeah.
But
That
other
was
other
fun.
than that, it's making your way back to the place where the majority of our siblings live. It's kind of like actually people doing what's easiest, maybe not what's hardest. So
Mhm.
anyway, that's
Yeah, or just taking the time or making the time
we're seeing
to
the
connect.
value in the time,
Seeing
you
the
know?
value in the time. Absolutely. Because you
So
don't get time back. We've talked about this. Yeah.
yeah, right. So it's, again, like great intention, like, yes, we need to get together and we want to get together, but actually are the steps kind of, you know, taken to see that through. So anyway, I mean, I hope I answered the question.
Oh, you sure did. I mean, you've said a lot, and I guess I would just say, are there any insights, sort of other than what we've asked you, that you'd like to share with our audience? And I know you've shared a lot.
Yeah, right at this point, I don't have much else to say. So yeah, I think I said what I wanted to or what sort of came to mind. So there you have
Well,
it.
I mean, I guess, Hyde, I would say, wow. Uh, this conversation's been so incredibly insightful. You've made such excellent points.
Mhm.
Some things that Heather and I shared when we were talking about our experience, but a lot that we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
And
A lot of new
so
insights.
some really excellent new insights. So, fam, hopefully you've gained these incredible insights as well into Heidi's experience growing up in a very large family. Hopefully, it's helpful to you in some way. And next time, we are going to hear from uh, sibling number one. So Heidi is sibling number 10. We are going to hear from Debbie, Ventressa,
Graham.
Graham. Lots of names for the firstborn in the Strout household. So we're looking forward to that conversation.
Mhm.
But for now, thank you so much for listening to The Tripod. Remember, you can find us on at The Tripod on all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Please hit subscribe to follow us, like us, help spread the word. And remember, please try us again next week.